So when was it that you got into farming? Because your folks aren't in farming, right?
No, my parents aren't. So my grandpa, he of course has farmed for quite a while, and I started raking hay when I was 9 years old. So little 9-year-old me was out there jumping the clutch and wearing a cowboy hat, raking hay, and yeah, I pretty much started right about then.
So what kind of farm did your grandpa have at that time?
So he had just got out of the Peas. They'd left, Whatcom County, and I think, yeah. So he was doing about a couple hundred acres of hay, where he's selling it to horse people, feeding it to his replacement heifers,
Hmm.
um, and he also did quite a bit of field corn. So that's kind of where I kind of dipped my feet into doing a little bit of field work with you know 4-wheel drive tractors and whatnot.
Yeah. What had he farmed over the years though? Like you said, he had done peas in the past. What else had he done
So years
back in the
ago,
day?
he and his brother, they dairied together, and they also did peas, sweet corn, dabbled a little bit with some green beans. And then they kind of had their separation, and
Hmm.
he continued to just do the whole field corn route with other dairies after they quit dairying,
Yeah.
and just kind of making it work with what he had.
So you're 9 years old, starting to work on the farm. Do you live in town at that time, or where?
I lived right down the road from my grandparents' farm, so
Okay. Well, that made it easy then
oh yeah,
to be right there.
yep, yep. He'd always come pick me up in his old beater farm truck, and I was always excited. I mean, most kids at 9 years old, they were pretty excited to go out to the lake or whatever, but I was always itching to get back onto the tractor.
So you caught the farming bug early on
Absolutely.
from your grandpa.
Mhm.
That's awesome. So where did you go from there? Because I'm assuming, kept helping on the farm right through high school and decided I want to be in farming.
Mhm. So I played sports in high school. I also towards the end of high school I started working for a seed potato farm, a local seed potato farm. Did that springs and summers. Falls I did football, but I from there I decided to go to school at Washington State University. I was gonna go be a Coug, go Cougs, and I was gonna go do construction management. I saw there was a lot of opportunity for higher wages and a lot of job placement, but
Yeah.
after a semester of that, I decided I just wasn't really my thing, and I wanted to go back to agriculture. So went and pursued a degree in agriculture technology and production management, AgTM.
What's a program like that
It,
teach you? What were you doing in classes
it
with that stuff?
it's basically um, a wide variety of, you have like science classes like your soil science, your biology, your chemistries, um, and then you have like a lot of business classes. I did a business minor as well, but there's a lot of like ag business, stats, economics, uh, and then there was just a bunch of irrigation and hydraulics,
Wow.
electrics, all that stuff. So it was a pretty well-rounded education, I'd say.
So everything on how to farm
Yeah, pretty much.
from whatever perspective. So what was your plan at that point? What did you want to do with that degree when you were still in school?
I had no idea. I just wanted to. I don't know. I kind of thought about like, oh, going to work for Simplot or McGregor or something like that through the basin, but I just kind of ended up coming back here to work for Skagit Farmer Supply.
So talk about your job now. You're an agronomist.
Yes, I am.
So
So,
what does that mean?
so I pretty much am responsible for all of the inputs in a handful of accounts that I have either opened or received, and I just check on their fields and make sure that there's no disease or pests or anything bothering the yield on the crop, and I just kind of make educated opinions on what kind of
Yeah.
fertilizer inputs and chemical inputs that we're going to use on this particular crop.
So what kind of crops are you keeping an eye on right now with
So,
the different farmers that you're working with?
so I deal with a lot of potatoes. I deal with field corn. I deal with some seed crops, hay or grass, of course,
Mm-hmm.
and then a little bit of cucumbers and pickling cucumbers
Mm.
and green beans. And I guess I'm kind of dabbling into berries right now. So
Mm. Which, like raspberries, blueberries?
yes,
Down
raspberries and
here.
blueberries.
And Whatcom and Skagit County is kind of your area.
Yeah, Whatcom, Skagit. I have a couple of accounts in Snohomish. So
Okay. Pretty wide area.
yeah, I'm all over the place.
Driving all over, keeping track of all these farms.
Mm-hmm.
Seed crops. What kinds of seed crops?
Like spinach seed and Swiss chard seed.
Okay.
It's
Those are probably in Skagit, right?
the actually the farmer that I deal with, he's in Arlington.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Down south there.
Yep, it's very unique actually seeing it's very high risk, but it can be very rewarding for a lot of these guys.
So what's it like helping to grow this food that people are going to eat? What does that mean to you?
Well, it's being on this side, the ag consulting side of farming, it's a whole lot different because you're kind of working with somebody else's livelihood, and you got to take that into consideration with every decision you make every day, and which kind of brings on a different level of stress because you can get unloaded on for making a mistake, and it could be an honest
Yeah.
mistake, but you try to minimize those mistakes and try to make a great crop and that everybody will enjoy.
A lot of farmers, everybody knows the farming population is aging. Here, you're a young guy. When did you graduate college, by the way?
This last December, so 2019.
Okay, so you're just fresh out of college.
I'm fresh.
Have you had to deal with, people being like, "Oh, you're a young buck. What do you know?"
Absolutely. There are a lot of people that don't take me very seriously, which
Yeah.
I mean is to be expected.
Yeah.
But then if like for me, I've been able to keep a level head and just kind of navigate through those situations, and people notice it. So I just try to be, the best field man, the best kind of all around person that I can be, because I don't want people to hate me or
Yeah. Well, is that like that on the job too? I would imagine you're brand new as an agronomist on this team. I know that team has some people who've been doing it for an awful long time, and you probably have to kind of feel like you prove yourself there too, right?
Yeah, I definitely have to prove myself. There's a few guys that, they don't take me very seriously, or he's the new guy. Like, I'm trying my best, man.
Yeah, for sure. I don't know, but what makes more of a difference? Your fresh college education or their years of experience? That may lead to different conclusions, right?
Yeah, I definitely could. I mean, I'm not sure. I mean, I'm sure they probably think that you went to college, you don't know anything. Which, I mean, I have learned quite a bit in the past 8 months since December. But
Yeah.
I'm not sure how to answer that one.
What was your first season like? 'Cause as an agronomist, things are busy in the spring, late spring time when lots of stuff is being planted. Then it gets less busy later on, right?
Right.
What was that first rush like, keeping on top of everything? And I know it can just be go, go, go.
Well, first off, I actually interned for Skagit last summer, so I
Okay.
kind of had a little taste of what it's like, to be in a field man's position. I rode with a couple of field men and figured out like, okay, this is stressful, but my first spring, this last spring, it started off in late March because we had a really nice couple weeks there in late March, so I kind of got a little taste of it. And it was nice because we were able to kind of get some of the operations done before it all has to happen at the same time.
Yeah,
So it was kind of nice to divvy it out a little bit. But
sure.
I mean, there's a lot of times where I'd be flying down the freeway and have to pull over and find an exit and sit there and dilly-dally with somebody's order or
Yeah.
whatever. And it was nice, though. My pickup has Bluetooth, so I could just sit there and, just take phone calls.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, it was very hectic.
So you're on the phone a lot, and then having to pull over and probably get on your phone and deal with emails and orders and websites and all that stuff
Oh,
too.
yeah, it's a whole different world. Like, I didn't realize that there was so much email, and the email really, really takes a toll. But,
Yeah. Well, I think anybody working a job dealing with lots of email.
oh, yeah. Well, it's,
Know what
it's
it is about
funny.
it.
Like, some of the, it would be a lot easier to have, like a group text message if you need to communicate, but for some reason they have to make like a group email. I don't know why, but
Get on those strings.
yeah,
New emails keep popping up. Is this something I need to look at or not?
yeah, you could just call me or text me, it'll be more effective. But,
Yeah, for sure. So you got through the first season. What are you going to do different next season? What lessons did you learn?
I think that I probably need to be a little more organized.
Mm.
I have a lot of learning left to do. There's a lot of agronomic principles that you don't just pick up. You have to have a season or 2 or 3 or however many it takes to figure out like this is how this crop reacts to this herbicide or however
Mm-hmm.
however you got to do it. But I think I have a lot of reading to do this winter. I plan on taking my CCA exam this February. I think it's February. So I can become a certified crop advisor.
Okay.
Just everything that you can do in the off season to be better for the following season.
So there's a lot of science to it.
Oh, there certainly is. I mean, just understanding. I listen to Ag PhD a lot on the Apple podcast or whatever, and
Yep.
I learn a lot of principles that I just kind of jot down as I'm driving around doing not a whole lot or whenever I'm not on the phone.
You said sometimes you just have to deal with people giving you a ration of what because they didn't like maybe what you did or said. You had any real bad experiences with that so far?
Yeah, I've had a couple of people give me a couple of nice words, and you just gotta take the BS, I guess.
Yeah.
That's kind of part of the job. They don't put that in the job description, but it's there.
What do you think the reason is for that? It's just because this farming stuff is so high stress?
I mean, there's so much going on at once, and there's money involved, and money just gets people pretty upset. So,
Worried about losing money.
and say an operator makes a mistake, well, you got to take the blame. You're not going to throw your operator under the bus, and
So that the people that work for your company were actually out driving the tractor, applying or planting or whatever.
yeah,
Those people you mean by operator.
yeah,
They
yeah,
may make a mistake.
yeah. So I'm not saying they have, but like if they do make a mistake,
Yep.
that you got to take the fall for it as a
Yep.
field man, because that's not fair to your guy that blah, blah, oh, this is my guy did this,
Yeah.
it's my problem. I got to deal with it. I got to talk to management to figure out, okay, how do we resolve this problem with this grower so he isn't mad at us.
Yeah. I've been that operator back in the day when I was planting corn for a similar operation to what you work for. Yeah, I was the operator, and I made a few mistakes.
It happens.
And the poor agronomist who was in your shoes had to probably go to the farmer and say, look, we didn't quite get this right. Maybe he missed a little spot or didn't put enough fertilizer with. And that's stressful because then you feel like, here, I'm just, at that time, I was a young guy in college. Like, I affected this guy's crop now. And usually there was a way to fix the problem some way. But it makes you nervous, and that does really crank up the stress.
Yep.
I remember some pretty stressful days in the cab of the tractor. I don't know if you've experienced that in the cab of your pickup, where some days you're just feel like you're in a vice.
Yep, you're ready to be home.
But you get to be out in fields and growing food all the time too. That has to feel pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's a privilege to be able to see all these different cropping systems. I mean, working with seed potatoes, like you only see one or two cropping systems, and that's the way it is. And you learn a lot. Like I learned a lot on the seed potato farm, and a lot of basic principles about mechanics and all sorts of stuff like that. But being able to see how every different farmer works their ground and how they apply their insecticide and everything about their program, it's kind of interesting to see how they're successful or where they could change. And that also gives me opportunity to kind of have an opinion on, hey, you might want to look into this, or you don't want to say like, hey, this is what you need to be doing, because
Right.
no farmer wants to hear that. But
Yeah.
if I'm sure, we're here to make recommendations. That's what we do.
Yeah. Have you considered this option?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And you worked for a seed potato farmer back, what, in high school and college?
Yes, I did. I worked for a seed potato farmer for 5 springs and summers in high school and college, which helped me get through college doing those 100-hour weeks,
100 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. What kind of stuff are you doing for 100 hours in 1 week?
Oh, I'd be doing a lot of field work or planting potatoes or, getting irrigation equipment ready. The biggest push for me was always the planting season. But, after that, 60 hours a week doing irrigation, 70 hours a week doing irrigation, pulling hose, all sorts of stuff like that. Repairs. That's always going to happen on a farm, repairs.
Constant.
Yeah.
Always something breaking.
And a hose reel would always eat itself or something like that. Don't miss that too much.
And that seed potato farm that you worked for just recently went out of business.
Yes, they did.
That'd be sad to see.
Yeah, it was pretty terrible. I'm pretty close with them, and it's a shame. I feel terrible.
What does that mean? With longtime family businesses like that going out, farms calling it quits, not just in seed potatoes but in other areas. What does that make you think? Here, you're a young guy coming to this farming community. What does that make you think about the future? Are you worried about it?
I'm a little bit worried about the population increasing in Western Washington and the cost of land in Western Washington. It's hard for if you're a family business or family farm and you go out, there's no getting back into it, really. Unless you have a large amount of capital to be able to get back into it, these $20,000-$30,000 an acre pieces of ground, you're not just going to be able to pull out of your pocket, right? And all these, for the crops that we have here in Whatcom County, besides corn, it's going to take a lot of inputs as far as a per acre cost,
Mm-hmm. Very expensive a lot you need to invest before you start harvesting a crop and trying to make some of that investment back.
Exactly. You can't just go out and throw some potatoes in the ground and say, hey, look, I got some seed potatoes. You got to have storage. You got to have the equipment. You got to have buyers.
As a ballpark, what would you say? What does it cost? What kind of investment does an acre of seed potatoes have into it before they actually realize anything back from it?
I don't know. Probably $10,000 an acre. It's tough out there, and
which is back to what you were saying about people being stressed, and when money is on the line, that's it too, because they've invested a lot already. And then if at some point in that chain, before those potatoes are harvested and sold and that money's back in their pocket to pay off some of those investments and debts, if you mess up something in that chain, it's like, ooh.
All right. And you could just mess something up right at the end. You get a disease and you put your potatoes in storage and there goes your storage. It's never ending for them until it's on the truck and gone.
You want to do your own farming in the future?
I'd like to. It's tough to see, where I'm going to be, but it's all I know. Cause it would be nice to be able to at least farm on the side, just to, have my foot into it and just have fun with it, I guess.
Yeah. Even though all you're describing doesn't sound fun at all. It sounds stressful.
No, it sounds very stressful, huh?
But apparently there is some fun to it as well.
Yeah, I think probably part of the pride of calling yourself a farmer and feed people, I guess.
Yeah. What would you like to grow?
I don't know. I'd like to grow some sort of annual crop that I think that's what we need here in Whatcom County is an annual crop that doesn't take as much of it as an investment and kind of sell as a locally produced food because it
Mm.
seems like that's the way that with the coronavirus at least
Yeah.
everybody's kind of looking for a local crop, locally produced food that they can kind of get to. So finding like some sort of a co-op that could, store or process these kinds of locally grown foods would be ideal.
So you're saying like grow a crop that isn't necessarily grown here in Whatcom County now.
Right, or it might be grown to, an acre or whatever. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
there's probably crops that are, an organic guy or, a hobby farmer might have in their backyard that would be, worth looking into for,
Yeah.
a few other people to grow.
You're saying maybe the big guys could learn something from the little guys?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you
Yeah.
think farmers feel that? Or I know there can be some kind of skepticism both ways between really, really small hobby farms and big farms and those in between.
I definitely see a big gap between, the bigger farms and the smaller farms. And, the bigger farms, they got everything going for them. And I don't blame them for wanting to think that way. But, being smaller on a smaller side of the scale, it's, you kind of are always looking for something different, I imagine.
Hmm. Easier to pivot and do something different
Mm-hmm.
when you're small.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said both sides could learn a lot from each other
I,
if they didn't feel so competitive. For what reason? Because they aren't actually competing usually in the same market
it's
at
not
all.
apples to apples at all.
No. But like you're saying, like the big guys could learn a lot from these little guys who are able to try different stuff
Mm-hmm.
and figure it out. Little guys could learn from the big guys too about some of the ways, efficiencies that they've found
Yeah,
too, right? Because the
marketing
big
and
guys have to be so efficient
mm-hmm.
to do what they do.
You gotta have good accountants.
Yeah, to keep on top of everything.
Yeah.
So you could grow a crop, produce local food, maybe something that isn't already grown here. I don't know what would that be like?
I don't know. I always heard about how fun the peas were when the peas were around, and
Growing peas, yeah.
that'd be
My
kinda
dad
cool.
used to grow peas
Yeah.
when I was
My
a
yeah,
kid.
my grandpa grew peas as well.
But so I guess what I was thinking when you were saying, well, grow something that isn't grown here now. Well, why not? Why isn't that stuff grown here?
I think everything has to do with marketing, right? Well, when Twin City Foods left, all the or I guess there's probably several processors, but
Yeah.
I mean the recent one that I knew about was Twin City Foods, and
Hmm.
where do you sell your peas? You don't just I mean you could sell like sweet corn on the side of the road, and that's gonna get you so far, but finding a place to be able to sell your local foods, like if there was some sort of storage that you're able to get a hold of or a processor or whatever. I think that's the biggest barrier for a lot of these people wanting to put something in.
So there's just not the processing facilities infrastructure here.
Yeah, it's nothing like the Columbia Basin or Skagit Valley where you just go to Othello or wherever and there's a processor here, processor there, or, here's your contract and put it in.
So there's no other reason we couldn't grow that stuff here?
I mean, there's a lot of, as far as I know, the quality of, like, say, for example, the Skagit Valley, like the quality of the green beans their green beans have such higher quality than the ones in the basin because the cooler nights,
Mm-hmm.
they don't get wind burnt here or down in the Skagit Valley.
Yeah.
I imagine the sand probably has a lot to do with getting wind burnt.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that there are a lot of crops that you could grow here that would probably have a lot higher quality, as long as it's not something like onions is going to take probably a lot longer growing days.
Right.
But yeah, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for a lot of those crops to come back. I mean, I heard they used to grow carrots here. They used to grow all sorts of things here in Whatcom County.
Yeah, back when there were processing facilities
Mm-hmm.
to actually package that stuff up and get it to the consumer.
Mm-hmm.
That seems to be the gap, and you're not the only person that I'm hearing that from
Right.
here.
Yeah, there's a big gap, but I mean, I think that the way that the coronavirus, and I mean, just as we've gone on in the last few years, that there's probably going to be a shift where people do want local food, and there's a great opportunity for Whatcom and Skagit to supply local food to Bellingham, to BC, to Seattle, because there's a lot of
Mm.
acres around here and a lot of dairies going out.
Yeah. You work with any dairy farmers right now? I know that community is under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, I work with a handful, and it's a very unique. I still don't understand the whole base thing. I mean, I get it when people want to get out and get a lot of money, and which they wouldn't have 2 years ago. But I mean,
Right.
I think it's a um, very complex topic that, I mean, it's been happening for quite a while here. I mean, how many dairies used to be here 30 years ago? Like 600 or
Yeah, something like that.
yeah. I mean, now there's probably what 150, 75 maybe.
Yeah, I think somewhere under 100 now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's a lot of consolidation that's happened, but now it's not so much consolidation, it's get out.
Get out and the cows go away. They
Mm,
go somewhere else.
Yep, it's no
Yeah.
more cows.
From all the farmers, dairy farmers, crop farmers that you work with, what's the biggest pressure that you're hearing they feel they're under? What are some of the things that they're worrying about in the big picture?
I hear a lot about water.
Yeah.
Um, you know,
What's
with
the concern with water? What are they worried about?
like tribes shutting them off.
Hmm.
Hearing about, I mean, the cost of land is increasing. Um, just farmland being lost to housing developments.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's all I can really think of right now. But
Yeah. Well, and because you work directly with these people, weighs pretty heavily on their mind.
mm-hmm. And markets too. I mean, like, I have a guy that he does wheat and straw, and I mean, you're not ever gonna make money on wheat here, and I mean that's just one of his rotations. But it's
Mhm.
really hard to make money on wheat in Western Washington. We don't have 4,000 acres with a very low land cost where it makes
Right.
sense to grow wheat. I mean, this $20,000-$30,000 an acre here, and you're not covering that cost with wheat.
Yeah. Totally. You mentioned water too. What does that mean? If people lost access to water, what would that mean for farms around here?
Like potatoes, I mean, you definitely need water. I mean, there's some pieces of ground you can get away without watering, but you're not going to get nearly the yield that you want without water. So
Mhm.
a lot of guys get shut off. It's there goes yield potential.
Would they be able to just deal with that, or kind of pivot and do something else, or what would happen to those farms?
I mean, that's probably going to impact their yield quite a bit. I mean, we work with a grower here in Whatcom that he uses drip tape, and this is a very efficient use of water.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's costs a lot of money to run that stuff, but it who knows? I mean, it might be the way to go for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, thankfully we get quite a bit of moisture here.
We do. We're not the basin for that.
And our aquifer is usually only, 10 to 20 feet down. So
Oh yeah,
that helps keep the soil at least have a little bit more moisture in it for more of the year.
right. Yeah, you hear about the depths of some of these wells in eastern Washington, and it's just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I visited with Case Vandermeulen a while back there in Mesa, and I think one of his wells is 1,800 feet down. Like,
That's quite the bill.
it's crazy to think about.
How do you pump that far?
Yeah, it takes a lot more juice. There's a lot more investment in the electricity to be able to irrigate than for us who have to, here in Western Washington, have to pump the water up 20 feet max.
Mhm.
Usually makes a big difference.
I know. Yeah, you don't see much more than 20 feet here, huh? As far as irrigation
Yeah.
wells.
And we're blessed with that kind of reservoir. In other areas, they use reservoirs above ground, but
Mhm.
here our reservoir is the groundwater.
Absolutely.
And that has also helped a lot of people take their irrigation off of streams and use groundwater instead when they're able to protect stream flows,
Mm-hmm.
which is a good thing.
Absolutely.
How has coronavirus affected your day to day?
I'm pretty mobile and I work remotely from my work truck, so I don't see too many people. I don't sit in an office with too many people. I actually had the coronavirus back in June.
Really?
Yeah, so I have no idea where I got it, but yeah, it didn't affect me too bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, explain how it went. Tell the story.
Oh, well, I was spraying a grass field of mine and, one of my hay fields, and I had a little open station 2440 John Deere and putting along, and the
Yeah.
next day I kind of
Is that this tractor right here?
yeah, that
behind
one.
us?
Yeah, I didn't know it was right.
I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
And so next day I kind of had like this little tickle in the back of my throat, and so got towards the end of the week. This was like a Tuesday that I noticed that, and it was like Thursday, and it's kind of started to get worse. And I figured, well, I'll just go to Skagit Valley College. They have like a drive-through swab deal, so
Mm-hmm.
I'll just go there to kind of rule the coronavirus out. So, and I guess so that Saturday they said, "Oh yeah, you have coronavirus." Oh shoot! So yeah, my girlfriend and I had to quarantine she had to quarantine way longer than I did, because it was like, for me, it's 10 days after the first symptoms,
Mm-hmm.
and I just kind of felt under the weather for about a week, and
Yeah.
I couldn't taste or smell anything for 2 weeks, but other than that, it wasn't terrible.
Why did she have to quarantine longer?
Because she could have been exposed to my symptoms,
Right.
because they went on for 10 days.
So did she ever get it?
No.
She didn't get it.
No, we lived together. Maybe
Crazy.
she gave it to me. I don't know.
But she didn't show any symptoms, but she had to quarantine longer because in case she did,
Yeah.
then it would be that much more delayed.
Yeah, so she had to quarantine 2 weeks past my 10 days.
Yeah.
So she was at home for quite a while. She actually started working from home, which worked out.
Yeah.
Less driving, and
What does she do?
she actually works at Skagit Farmer Supply too.
Really?
In the credit department, yeah. Yeah, we met at WSU.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you work at the same operation as your girlfriend,
Yeah.
but not you don't actually work together on
No,
a day-to-day
not at all.
basis.
No, not at all. We figured. I asked my boss, like, would it be weird if she applied? Because it was actually really hard for her to find a job. She was working as she got a degree as ag economics
Mm-hmm.
from WSU, and she had a terrible time finding a job. And was it April, because she got let out early because of the coronavirus,
Mm-hmm.
And so I asked my boss, "Oh, is it weird if Emily applies?" And he goes, "Oh no, not at all." Okay, whatever.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
You always got to think, is there some kind of conflict or something? But-
Right. Yeah. It wasn't too bad.
So what does she want to do? Does she want to be a farmer too?
Yeah.
She just wants to be an ag economist.
Yeah,
Does she like the actual, like, getting in the dirt stuff too?
She likes the numbers, but she really likes the baldy calves.
Yeah.
She just loves the baldy calves for whatever reason.
Why? What's different about them?
I don't know. I guess they're cute little buggers,
So you guys raise some calves, or she does? Or?
Yeah. So my grandpa's got I don't know, 20 head of Angus, and yeah, they just calved like month and a half ago.
Explain what's a baldy calf.
Oh, it's just it's a black. It's a black Angus with the white face.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond me why they get that, I forget. But yeah, they just have a white face, calling them like a bald eagle.
Right.
It's just bald calf,
Right.
I guess.
Is that because they're crossed with something else, or are they still?
Yeah, I think so. It has something to do with. I'm not. I don't know. To be honest with you.
I don't either, because I'm not a big animal person as much, but
Yeah.
I know I've been told before.
Yeah, I'd like to.
That's why I was hoping you would know.
Right. No.
But you're like me.
Now I sound
You
silly.
sound like you're more of a crop guy like me.
Yeah, I'm more of a crop guy, but I kind of want to dabble into the cattle a little bit more. I mean, I
Yeah.
always help separate the. He used to have like 200 head of replacement heifers here for quite a while.
Your
so,
grandpa?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd always help separate, and I didn't necessarily hate the animals, but I just love the tractors.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Totally get that. And I helped my grandparents on their dairy farms, but I wasn't a cow guy.
It
I
seems
was a tractor and field and crop guy.
it seems like on most dairy animal type farms, you're either one or the other, from what I've noticed.
Yeah. You see a lot of families kind of split up duties that way too,
Yeah.
where, one brother does the field side and the other brother does the cow side or something like that.
Yeah. That's works out, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So you think you might end up doing some farming yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You're working with other farmers.
Mm-hmm.
It's a crazy life.
It is.
Driving all over the place. Why do you love it so much? What keeps you going through those stressful days?
I don't know. I like to see things grow. I like to make food. I think between hunting and fishing and growing food, having a garden, I swear my whole life revolves around food prep and,
Yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just like to, it's kind of beautiful seeing, corn grow. It's beautiful seeing potatoes grow. Beautiful seeing them getting harvested. And I guess just the process of the hard work. I think, I attribute 99% of my work ethic to the agriculture lifestyle. So I couldn't be more grateful for that.
Well, thanks for sharing your story and opening up about what you do and why you do it.
Yeah, thank you.
It takes so many people, and it's cool to see someone like you, even just straight out of college, being willing to make that jump into it. Because a lot of people right now are saying, why would you get into farming? Farming is kind of going downhill.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it isn't, because I think we need to still be growing the food that we eat here.
Yeah, people gotta eat, man.
So, yeah, and we need people like you getting into farming to keep it going for the next generation
Mm-hmm.
and beyond.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I guess a lot of guys I went to school with in Pullman, there's a lot of young people. There's quite a few young farm kids, but as far as Western Washington, it's hard to find very many young, college age, folks that are gonna be into farming, I guess.
Yeah. Why do you think that is? Why do people your age coming out of college not want to get into farming?
Probably a generational thing. I mean, I think, kids not working over the summer, and I think you hear about the older generation, like they all milk cows, and in high school and middle school or whatever, and a lot of the kids that I went to high school with, or a lot of kids that you see now, they play video games and go swimming, which I get you got to do that here and there, but I feel like getting that early work in and being able to be a part of something like that, I think keeps that farming around.
You learn to value that at a young age.
Mm-hmm.
The hard work and then the payoff for putting in that work to see the crop grow, even as a young kid, to work and discover, hey, you have a few bucks, I can go buy my own bike, or
Exactly, yeah.
that kind of a thing.
Yeah, throwing, some heavy ryegrass bales into the hay mount when you're 10 or 12, that kind of teaches you a few things too.
Yeah, for sure. And plus it makes you stronger.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Dylan.